Makes sense.
We'll start with the AFC East, and again, like I said, I'm hoping we go through this a little quickly. I don't think we need to spend much time with the AFC East.
I was going to say, do we even need to bother?
For obvious reasons. Ricky, who are you taking?
I'll take the Jets. No,
Yeah.
I'll take the Patriots in this one, obviously. I think the only thing more shocking than the Patriots not winning the division might be Conor McGregor winning this weekend. I don't think that there's much of a chance that anybody outside of New England wins this division, and it has the potential to, outside the Patriots, be pretty terrible. I think maybe the biggest threat, I would say, would be the Dolphins, and even then, I don't see them making a lot of noise. Maybe I expect them to maybe contend for a wild card spot, which we'll get to in a little bit, but I don't really see it. I mean, the Patriots pretty much are going to lock this thing up by week 8.
You know, everyone keeps talking about Brandon Cooks and all those great additions they make, but you know what? Which move I liked the best was Mike Gillislee. You know who led the league in yards per carry last year? It wasn't Ezekiel Elliott. It wasn't any of those guys. It was Mike Gillislee. And now they added him to their team. They're just,
It was the Bills' backup running back. So good.
I know, but 5.7 yards per carry led the league more than anybody else in the NFL. I think it's a good addition for the Patriots.
Yeah, they made who cares? They made
a lot of good additions, but I think that's an underrated addition is all I'm saying. Patriots are going to win the East.
They have arguably the best player in the league. They have the best coach in the league. They play in a potentially atrocious division. 16-0 is realistic.
I was going to say, I think the discussion when it comes to the AFC East really is what is more likely to happen: the Patriots go 16-0 or the Jets go 16-0. It's a question we posed.
That was a Nesson.com question, yeah.
So if you want to check that out, you have to dig into the archive.
Yeah, that was a little while ago,
a few weeks ago. So there's been a lot going on since then. But that was a question that we brought up because that's making the rounds on the old interwebs. I think it's fair because I think both are legitimate possibilities.
What are your guys' thoughts on the Dolphins, though? You think they're gonna? I know you touched on. I love them. I think if there was a regular division, they would.
How do you love the Dolphins?
You got a great front seven.
I love them in relation to what else the rest of that division has to offer. Because I don't like the Bills. I don't like the Jets. The Dolphins, I think it really comes down to their offensive line and whether Pouncey stays healthy. Laremy Tunsil maybe takes the next step in year 2. The Tannehill, the Cutler is kind of.
Basically the same guy.
Kind of a wash for me.
Yeah. It might actually be an upgrade because Jay Cutler was really good under Adam Gase a couple years ago when all they did was get away from throwing the ball. They ran the ball a ton, and a friend of the show, Jay Ajayi, is a guy.
Bell cow back this year.
Right. So to kind of speak to your point, I think I think they're in a better position with Cutler than they would be with Tannehill, which is something I'm probably going to regret saying.
Yeah, I mean they got weapons on that offense too. I mean, Cutler has some toys to play with. It's a pretty good situation for him to kind of stumble into. Like you said, I think that's a wash with the quarterback situation. So, by virtue of playing the Jets twice a year and potentially 2 wins against the Bills, I mean, they're going to be right in there in the thick of things. Whether they get there, we'll get into that in a little bit. But
defense might be a question mark.
Exactly.
I love their front seven. We'll get to that in the wild card segment. I'm going to talk about this.
Go on. What do we got? What's the next division we
got? We got the AFC North. Andre, why don't you start us off?
Oh, I think we all agree with this one too. The Pittsburgh Steelers. That division, I think, you look at the Bengals and the Ravens. They were usually in the mix in the past. But I look at the Ravens. The Ravens are going to be bad this year, man. You know what's weird? Yeah. Joe Flacco is 32 years old now. When did that happen? When did Joe Flacco turn 32 years old?
Showing every bit of that age, too. He was terrible last year.
The sands of time.
He was terrible.
And in the last 2 seasons, he's been terrible. 34 touchdowns, 27 interceptions. He was sacked 33 times last season. Their offensive line is pretty bad. They have a very generic team. It's just very generic names when you look at their team. And you look at the Bengals, they just have a bunch of criminals on their team, basically. With Joe Mixon, and you got Pac-Man Jones. What was he doing this offseason? And Vontaze Burfict's a strange character guy. I don't know. It doesn't really translate into winning. So, and then the Browns are the Browns. I think they'll make some noise. They'll win more than 1 game this year. But I got to give it to the Steelers. Martavis Bryant's coming back. They got some good threats. Ben Roethlisberger is going to be good. And I love their defense. They had pretty good pass rush towards the end of last season. 25 sacks in the last 7 games.
Bud Dupree, that was a big guy.
Ryan Shazier.
Yep, ad nauseum last year.
Love Shazier.
I agree. I like the Steelers as well. I'd like to see a little more from that secondary. That was always obviously a pain point throughout last season, but that offense is as good as any in the NFL. Up there with the likes of New England. So when I look across this conference to teams that could potentially knock the Patriots off, that's one of the ones that kind of jumps off the page. And you touched on some of the issues with the other teams. I do think the Ravens, I think the defense has the potential to be pretty good. But at the same time, I'm not so sure it's going to be good enough to compensate for what they don't have on offense. pretty tough situation when you get Joe Flacco, who just spoke of how terrible he is. He takes up about like 15% of their cap space, I think I read somewhere. So that's not an ideal situation when you're going through your financial. I'm not good with money. Don't get me wrong. I'm actually quite terrible with it. As we thought we had the lottery ticket was in locally around here. But yeah, that's not a good way to live with him taking up a big chunk of your cap space. And as you mentioned, it's kind of a boring team, the Ravens. But so long story short, I like the Steelers as well.
Mike going through his spreadsheets.
Yeah, I like the Steelers too. It's just, I mean, what else is there to say that you guys haven't already said, which is going to be a recurring theme on the show.
The Browns, though, you mentioned them. They're going to be entertaining. Nothing else.
I'm glad I got you on board. Yeah.
Just wanted to get that.
There's the first head shake of the year.
He's already pissed at us. This will be a recurring theme, I'm sure.
What are we, 3 minutes in?
Let's go to AFC South.
All right, so hold on. No, so this is how the show works. I try to steer it as much as I can. I'm like a good setter in hockey.
You gotta know.
I set both of you up. Right? And so I say, all right, you go first, you go first, you go first, you go first. I'll make a point, wrap it up. I go to start making my point. Within 6 seconds of talking, you guys are just going back and forth, cutting me off before I can even make my point. I sit here patiently waiting for you guys to make points, and I can't even make my own point. So I'm putting my foot down this time of the year. Jesus, they got a young secondary, the Steelers do. It's the reason why they're not going to win the Super Bowl. They probably won't even win the AFC. They're the only team that comes close to the Patriots, though, which just tells you how bad the AFC is. The rest of that division sucks. So why did you guys just spend 3 minutes talking about the Browns?
I just wanted to get
the Ravens. The Browns are fine.
Fascinating.
Ravens usually are good.
They're not going to be good this year.
They're not going to be good this year.
All right, let's go to the South.
Dirty South.
Ricky, why don't you start off?
I like the Titans in this division. I think just based on some break room discussions that the three of us have had, I think you guys are pretty high on the Titans as well. I don't want to give anything away, but it really, I like the way they're built. I like what they got going on here. They kind of, they got a very good offensive line, leading the back for bruising tandem of Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray. Obviously, Mariota is showed signs of being a franchise quarterback last year before going down with the injury. I think the defense got to be a little bit better with Jonathan Cyprien and Logan Ryan in that mix. And really, so, what this team needed was kind of I think they just need to get a little bit more explosive, just get, some playmakers on their team. So they had kind of a little core they were going with the O-line and, building with that defense. Yep. And now you add the likes of a guy like, Corey Davis, the draft pick. Eric Decker is another good target for them. So all of a sudden, I think they're getting a little bit more dynamic, some more playmakers, and I think that's what they need to keep up with the likes of, the Patriots and Steelers and the AFC. Not quite sure they're at that level, but I do like them. I think the over/under for them was set 8.5 wins-wise. I like them to be over 500 win that.
When you're a young team trying to go in the right direction, all you can ask for is get better every year. I think they're getting better. They win a division year this year. That's a step in the right direction.
You can really see how they're approaching things. It makes a lot of sense.
In spite of Mike Mularkey.
I can't ignore the fact that the Texans allowed 4.7 yards per play last season without J.J. Watt. Now they get J.J. Watt back. I can't ignore that defense. I was looking at the Titans. I was waffling between the Titans and Texans, but I'm going with the Texans to win the AFC South. It's hard for me to say it. If I had to put percentage allocations, I would put Texans 60%, Titans 40%. I'm not too confident about it, but I like that they're going to get better quarterback play. One would hope so with Deshaun Watson. I mean, they took him in the first round. So I think that's going to help them. They received terrible quarterback play last year. And what's the big deal about Marcus Mariota? He's a good quarterback. He's getting better, but he was 20th in completion percentage last year, 10th in touchdowns with Eli Manning and Carson Palmer. Let's slow down on Marcus Mariota. He's a good quarterback. He's getting better, but let's slow down.
Yes, exactly. That's all you can ask, is that you get a good young quarterback. You ask him to get better every year. You don't ask him to do too much, and you put good pieces around him. They've done that with the running game, and they've continued to develop through the draft, through free agency. I loved what they did in the draft. A lot of people didn't think they kind of reached on Corey Davis. You didn't have to take him that high in the draft, but they had 2 picks way up top. The other one went on Adoree Jackson. They addressed 2 needs right there: a wide receiver, a cornerback. They go out and sign Logan Ryan as well. This is a team that puts most of its money into the defense, which I like. You kind of develop those young guys. Yeah, sure. Marcus Mariota isn't necessarily a guy who's got the same pedigree as like Andrew Luck did a few years ago, but look where that got Andrew Luck. You kind of just no, it's not, because they didn't build a good team around him, which is what the Titans are doing around Marcus Mariota. And I just don't see. You talk about Houston. I don't see you talk about their defense all you want, and I actually like that Houston team probably more than some, which we will get to a little bit later. I just don't see where the points come from necessarily. I just look at this division and say, a lot of teams beating each other up. It's just, I don't know. I just think that the Titans have the most talent at the most important positions. And that's another thing, too. One thing, actually, I just want to get to this point real quick. This is going to be a big theme of mine this year, or at least in this season preview, the schedule. I think the schedule is a big thing. They beat up on a lot of bad run defenses last year, Tennessee did. So they're going to, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So hopefully you're asking Mariota to take that next step. Hopefully, healthy Tajay Sharp, like you said, Corey Davis, Decker. Hopefully that kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off that run game. But their defense, I think, is being a little bit overrated or underrated. That they get to play Jacksonville twice. They stink. Houston twice. They don't have much of an offense. Offensively, at least, I'm saying.
Yeah.
At Miami, we don't know what that offense is going to be. Cleveland, Baltimore, San Francisco, and the I can't think of the Rams. So I'm really high on teams that get to play the AFC West this year, as you will see. But
well, to piggyback off what you were saying, the Titans have the second easiest schedule based on winning percentage from last year. So, I mean, the Texans play those same teams too. So I see them. And you look at the Jaguars, but let's not kill the Jaguars yet. I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I think they can be an 8-win team. Look at these defensive names: Calais Campbell, A.J. Boyd.
I just don't see how you can sit here and say you can't say that Marcus Mariota isn't that good, and then say that the Jaguars might be good with Chad Henne, Blake Bortles, or Colin Kaepernick.
I'm saying their defense will help them win games.
Sure.
They play the Jets, Rams, Bengals, Browns, and 49ers.
I'm not getting sucked into that.
No.
Not until I have a legitimate quarterback.
I agree. Jaguars aren't doing anything.
I got sucked into
not
that
even
last year.
legitimate, competent.
I think they'll be competent.
Oh my God!
I think Chad Henne has the potential to be a lot more competent.
And the reason why I picked Texans over
the last couple of years, but
I think the reason why Texans will surpass the Titans is they're going to play twice, and just like the Texans' defense to suffocate Marcus Mariota, just like they did last year in those games. And I think head-to-head will be the difference.
And that Corey Davis pick, that might be a reach, but when you absolutely fleece the Rams and you get the amount of draft picks that they have,
it's gravy.
You can take it. And not only that, but you identify
which I like for a team that you're drafting for need there almost. I don't mind. I mean, sure, maybe you could have traded down a couple of picks.
And to kind of slap a bow on this this division, which has been notoriously bad in recent years, I really don't like the Colts. I don't know about you guys. I don't think they're going to do much. They pretty much took a sledgehammer to their defense and brought in a lot of new faces, which I guess is pretty encouraging when you consider the defensive flaws that they've had. Right. But until they address that offensive line, this team's going to go nowhere. Unless you can protect Andrew Luck, which I just don't see happening with this.
Wasting the prime of his career.
It really is. It's a shame.
Not even entirely sure what you're going to get out of Andrew Luck either. So again, even if he's back there, he's going to get murdered. So.
Move to the West.
The West.
This is a good division.
I don't know.
Good. I guess it's. I don't think it's very good.
I agree with Mike.
I think it's going to be. I think the 10-6 definitely wins this division. I think we could be looking at a 9-6. Sure.
Competitive, yes.
Competitive, yes. That makes sense. All right, Andre, why don't you kick it off in the West?
I think in Week 17 there's going to be a huge game. I mean, I don't think it is going to happen. It's between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Oakland Raiders.
God willing.
It will happen. That game will happen.
Tomorrow's promise for no one.
Week 17, that game will decide the division, and it's in Los Angeles. And I think the Chargers win that game and win the division, win the AFC West. I love Phillip Rivers. I've always loved the guy.
5,000 people strong.
5,000 people will show up, but they will win that game.
Thunder sticks.
You finally get there. Can I talk? No, I don't have any Phillips. Phillip Rivers gets his targets back. Melvin Gordon took a step forward last year. I love their defense. Joey Bosa, 10.5 sacks in just 12 games. Melvin Ingram, 18.5 sacks in the last 2 seasons. And I think they get the easier schedule than the Raiders because they didn't win that division last year. They don't go and play the tougher teams that the Raiders have to play. I like it. And the Chargers last year, 9 of their 11 losses decided by 1 possession. That can easily flip. Rivers gets a few bounces here and there. And what's also crazy is they had a positive yards per play differential despite being 5-11. That means they're a good team. They just got some bad breaks last year.
Or they were a little sloppy with the football.
which they fumbled. Yes, they put the ball on the ground a lot. And fumbles are a stat that,
No, I understand that, but Phillip Rivers wasn't necessarily careful with the football.
He also didn't have anybody on his team.
I understand. All right.
Skeleton crew.
I agree. I'm pretty high on the Chargers. Well, I don't have them winning the division.
I am too. Before you get to your pick, I am too. I actually like the Chargers, and I toyed with them as a wild card team. So
we'll get to the wild cards. But for my division winner, though,
we'll get to the wild cards in an hour.
I still like the Raiders. I think as long as Derek Carr is healthy throughout the season, that offensive line is pretty legit. I'm not as high on Marshawn Lynch edition as a lot of Raiders fans are. I think that's you're asking a lot if you think he's going to be the.
I think if he's a shell of himself, though, he's an upgrade from what they had last year. He's
an upgrade, and I think he brings an element that they didn't have last year. I could see him kind of playing almost like a LeGarrette Blount type mold for Oakland in the sense that you give it to him, and ironically give it to him near the goal line to plunge it in. And I also think their defense is going to be a lot better. I think that secondary is going to be better than it was last year. Particularly early on last year, they struggled. So, I don't know. I think that defense is going to be a little bit better, like I said. And I think the way they went about it was they solidified their coverage as opposed to going after a pass rusher to put alongside Khalil Mack. So, I do have some worries about that, the lack of a pass rush. But offensively, they're pretty legit. And I just think they're the best team in that division, which, as I mentioned, is going to be pretty competitive.
5 of the first picks they made in the draft used on defense. Yep. So clearly trying to address that area of need.
Secondary, big area of focus in the draft.
I just think they're going to score some points too. So if the secondary doesn't necessarily live up to the expectations that they might have, I think they're going to score points with a lot of teams. One move that I really like that they made, a little bit under the radar move, signing Jared Cook, I think is going to be a big move for them. You go back and look at that Packers team last year, and you look at Jared Cook's numbers over the course of the season, they're not great. But when he got back, middle of the season, late season, it coincided with that run that they went on. The whole Rodgers were going to run the table thing, or we might run the table. That was right when Jared Cook came back, and he kind of gave that offense an element that didn't have. New offensive coordinator Todd Downing, he's made it a point to say that we're going to use the tight end more often. So far through, and I know it's preseason, through 2 preseason games, 7 receptions, 91 yards, and a touchdown from the tight end position. So I think that's an element that they're going to be able to use and make that offense even better. Because if they get something out of their running game, which they didn't get a whole lot out of last year with Marshawn Lynch this year, and they get something out of that tight end, which they got nothing out of, and they get it out of Jared Cook this year, it's 2 more weapons for Derek Carr, who's becoming one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So I think they're going to put up a lot of points. I think that's going to make a difference. But I do think there are some holes there, and I agree. I'm not crazy about this division. Interesting note, none of us mentioned the Chiefs.
The Chiefs, I feel like they've maxed out.
I disagree because they've maxed out because they're dumb or they didn't make the right moves because their draft is so weird. That was the thing. It's like you were a couple pieces away that you could have added in the first couple of rounds to kind of extend your window, but that clearly you don't believe in Alex Smith.
What's weird is they're 22-4 since starting 1-5 in 2015. They're on fire right now. But
we'll be sitting here in week 16 and be like, I'm going to take the Chiefs again this week. That defense.
It's just they get Justin Houston back full season. They're going to be good. They're going to be up there. It's a tough division.
Every week that division's gonna be tough to pick.
They will lose key divisional games.
We agonized over that even last season. But I just think with them, when I say that they maxed out, it also it's weird because once they're finally ready to make that transition at the quarterback position, I'm not so sure what type of team they're going to be handing the reins over to Mahomes with. Like I don't know what that roster is going to look like. They kind of
it's just Tyreek Hill and what else?
Hamstrung themselves financially. I mean, they pretty much they cut ties with Jeremy Maclin. They don't have a lot of weapons. I mean. Tyreek Hill, I feel like, is kind of a 15 minutes of fame type of guy. I'm not sure we're going to get from him.
It's like one of those things. It's like he's like a young guy in baseball where the book gets out on him. It's like just don't punt to him.
And a lot of their success last year came with special teams. Punt return and punt coverage.
That doesn't seem like something.
Coverage team in the NFL as well.
Yeah, they're on. And Alex Smith, come on, he's Alex Smith. Let's not forget last year they lost a playoff game where Chris Boswell kicked 6 field goals on them and they lost 18-16.
I mean, like I said,
he was being interviewed at the game.
Like I said, though, what they did with the draft tells you all you need to know about Alex Smith.